I'm going to show you how that's done.
Does fetch work the same way as FileZilla?
Fetch is the same thing. It's another FTP client. So I'm going to bring up an FTP client. Any FTP client, whether it's Fetch or FileZilla or anything else, will ask you for a host. Host is another word for server. And in this case, what we're going to enter is ftp.PenelopeSpark in FileZilla.com. And now, this is since for this test we just are using a very cheapo hosting on GoDaddy, we're only going to be able to do this one person at a time. So I'm going to do it first, and then we can go around the table and do this. Each FTP server is usually protected with a username and password. So in this case, the username is DL Training. It's a DailyLit Training, and the password is Beckett, but as in Samuel Beckett, but the E's are 3's. So I'm going to do that here. I'm going to type in my username, DL Training, and the password that I just said. And I'm going to hit, you can leave the port blank, and I'm going to hit Quick Connect.
Should you just finish?
I'm only going to do this. Nobody else is going to get in for a moment. Before I do this, I wanted to show you what's at PenelopeSpark right now. In fact, I've created a subdirectory here called Training, and I put the same thing there. Welcome to DailyLit HTML Training. Now, if I put here "Hello World," I get this. Ooh, page not found. Why is the page not found? Well, the page is on my machine. I haven't transferred it to the server. So if I try to request it from the server is going to say, I don't know this page. Sorry. This is what you call a 404. It's a page not found error. And different servers will provide different page not found pages. So let me get my file over there, and let's see what happens. So So in order to do that, I need to connect. It's going to spew a bunch of things. It's going to say, hey, I'm now connected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the Hello World example, and I'm just going to drag it over there. And it's going to do a bunch of things, and it's going to say, hey, I have just transferred this file. It's over there now. So now if I go here and I refresh this page, ta-da! However, my heading is black. Why is it black and not red? Because I didn't transfer my CSS file. So when this page said, give me test.css from that location, well, test.css is still only here. So let me transfer test.css over also. So I take test.css, transfer that over. There it is. And in that split second that I did, it went from this machine all the way to Texas. And when I do this, ta-da! I have a green heading. Because now the browser says, hey, give me the page called helloworld.html. In that page it says, I have a style sheet. It says, oh, give me that style sheet too. I render the HTML using the style sheet. So I'm going to now, I'm going to nuke these two files. Delete them.
The host is just the name of the website?
Yeah. Host is essentially another way of saying server.
Server website?
Server. Server is a machine, and on a machine there's a bunch of different things running. There's a web server running, and the reason I can connect via FTP, the reason I can do that is because there's also an FTP server running. The FTP server lets my program, my, in this case, FileZilla or Fetch, connect, and it lets it do the file transfer. So I didn't draw this entirely correctly. So really what's running there is there's another program running on the computer, and it's called an FTP server. My FTP client, which is FileZilla, connects to the FTP server. I'm using it to shuttle the files over. Once the files are there, another person can connect. So-
Are other people confused too, or just?
Well, so if I went to www.ftppenelopesparks.com, would I get there?
Oh, all right, that's a little more complicated question.
Is an FTP site like just like a private little area where like you can put your stuff so somebody else can come get it?
all right, I'll answer that question in a second, but why don't we start here with somebody trying to do what I just did.
Are you putting when it says host, you're putting the name of the site, not the Sparks on it?
I put ftp.penelopesparks. So let me explain what's going on here. This is slightly creepy. So we're gonna talk about the architecture of a domain name. Okay, so a domain name has what's called a TLD, a top level domain. Okay, and what a TLD is, it's .com or .org or .gov, and it defines a set of names. And so the theory was that .edu is reserved for universities in theory. I mean, it's not really strictly enforced, but that was the theory. So that's the TLD portion. This portion here is the actual domain. Now you can have things in front of that. And what we've seen most commonly in front of that is www. But once you put other things in front of that, that portion up here is called the subdomain. Now, I was giving the telephone book analogy earlier, like, you know, in the telephone book, you take somebody's name and you look up the number. Well, you can think a little bit like first name, last name, okay? So, it's entirely possible for this combination, www.penelopesparks, to have a totally different IP address and go to a totally different server from if I had, let's say, my.penelopesparks. So, when I typed into this ftp.penelopesparks.com, it could have theoretically gone to yet another different server. But what GoDaddy does, it uses this internally and says, oh, somebody is trying to go to ftp.penelopesparks. They are trying to actually do a file transfer. So let me, behind the scenes, connect to the same server, but let me throw them right into a predefined location on that server. So I'm going to go one step further and say, in front of this portion, in front of the domain name, so let me put FTP here. To complete the structure of a URL, you have what's called the service type. So on the web, the service type tends to be HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. But you could also write FTP : / and that would say, go to this, look this place up in the telephone book, in DNS, and then connect to the server using not the Hypertext Transfer Protocol, but using the FTP protocol. Turns out that most browsers actually have a limited amount of FTP functionality built into them. And so you can actually use your browser to connect to this also. I'll show you what that looks like at the risk of totally confusing everybody. Here, let me use, for instance, Safari for a moment to do that. So if I went in here and I typed FTP : / ftp.penelopesparks. Did anybody connect to it?
I got on, but the files and so on.
Alright. It's asking me for username, password, I would type deal training and save password.